Look at you with this setup.
It's perfect.
It's great.
Hello.
Amazing. Hello. How's it
How
going?
are you?
Oh my God, you can see us too. This is pro stuff, guys, on Ground Pass. Let's go.
We're small and mighty. Small and mighty.
I love that.
Yeah.
Small but mighty.
Small but mighty. That's the phrasing. Hi. Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Good.
I was just thinking last night, it was so cool. We met at Madison Square Garden in March, and I
Yes.
was like, who are you? And you're like, hey, this is what I do. And
Yeah.
it was I love the tennis world. You know, it's obviously global for fans that follow, I think
Yeah.
you especially, but it's so cool to watch what you have created. And it reminded me of like, there's always new space to create. You know, if you're out there and you want to create, like, find it and
Yeah.
make it your own,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. No, totally. Because, and that's the thing too. Sometimes I think when you're in a space or you look at something, you're like, oh, maybe it's all done. Like everything's done already.
It's
No,
not.
it's not all done yet. There's room for
Yeah.
new voices and different voices
Yeah.
as well. But we're here to talk to you. Welcome, everyone.
Thanks.
Welcome
Yes,
to this
welcome.
episode of Ground Pass Podcast. This is another episode of Meet the Professionals, and I'm here with Nick. And Nick, I would like you to introduce yourself and say what you do.
Oh, man. Well, I will say it reminds me of sort of the space that you've created reminds me of how I first got into the sport of 2008, 9, 10, when social media was like really coming up. And I feel so out of the social media loop now, but that's really where I got my start in terms of writing, social content, you know, pitching ideas for Facebook Lives and like all of these things that just feel so antiquated now.
Yeah.
But really haphazard, I got the opportunity right out of college to do some work with Tennis Magazine, and then I somehow ended up on the New York Times way back when they had a tennis blog.
Oh, wow.
It was called Straight Sets.
Okay.
And I called everyone at the New York Times. I think I called all these different news desks, and people are like, I don't run the tennis blog. Like, what do you... But the persistence paid off. I ended up writing some bloggy... You know, this is 14, 15 years ago. And that really gave me then the stepping stone to be like, hey, I work with the New York Times. And then that helped me work with the USTA a little bit. I started writing for people like ESPN. Eventually, I did 2 years at USA Today as their tennis reporter in 2015 and 16, which were huge years for Serena, obviously, and among the other of the golden generation. So that really helped me into my career. Today, I do a balance of, I work part-time for the Olympic Channel, which is the day-to-day coverage of the Olympic movement from the IOC. Mm-hmm. I'm on our greater global content team. And then I come to events and I do stuff like this. So here I'm emceeing in Cincinnati. I'm doing a lot of the public-facing player interviews. There's a team of 5 of us. Yeah. But I've done the Australian Open. We did the cinema sessions this year, which I hope people have had the opportunity to check out, not because of me, but because of the amazing content that the players provide. Yeah. We sit them on a couch, we give them popcorn, and they watch themselves. They are the movie, which is awesome. And then we did a daily show at the French Open from Paris with Clay, which was a daily 12-minute show about everything but the tennis at the French Open. And at Wimbledon, I was hosting a behind-the-scenes stream. So we had cameras affixed all over the grounds, and it was basically giving you guys a view of Wimbledon outside of the match court, and that was on every morning from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So gigs like that, I do radio, I do podcast stuff, obviously, but anything media-facing, that probably gave you a lot about me, but also nothing both at once.
But I think that's how people know you now, or at least have seen you. It's like they'll see you with the cinema sessions, or they'll see you walk around Roland Garros and things like that. Or more importantly, especially tennis fans, they see you on court and you're interviewing a player, and you know they're like, "That? How do I do that?" So before we get into that, let's start way back in the beginning when you were wee little Nick. And you thought, when I grow up, I want to be... What was that?
I mean, when I grew up, I want to be a tennis player was the first dream. But I grew up in Montana where there's like 3 months of tennis playing weather each year. So that dream died probably by the time I was like 14. And then it actually, like sophomore year in high school, like I want to be a tennis journalist.
Okay.
I mean, it was like very early.
So right away, you were in tennis. You were like, that's it. Okay.
It just was my sport. Like my brothers, I have 2 older brothers. They were like soccer, basketball, and tennis just felt kind of like mine. It felt independent. I've talked about a lot being an out journalist. It was part of my queer identity, especially watching women be so successful on a global stage. Obviously, Monica Capriati, the Williams sisters, Steffi Graf, all of them, that era, I think really gave me, as a young queer person, the opportunity to be like, oh, these women have this own stage. Like, it doesn't just need to be a space for straight men.
Yeah.
Which I do think played a role in being 16 and being like, I like to write, I like to ask questions, I like to report. And honestly, I can remember sitting at our kitchen table in Helena, Montana, being like, I want to be I thought I was going to be on the tour every day of the year. I remember thinking that, of like, I'm going to be at Wimbledon and I'm going to think of a story no one else has thought of, which I think I've done a couple times.
Yeah.
But the every day of the year situation has definitely, I've adultified that a little bit.
Yeah. And so when you had that, I love that because it's sort of, you always wanted to be in tennis. Did you know how you were going to do it?
No.
At the time?
I mean, yeah, no idea. And actually, so I went to college in Seattle, so Montana to Seattle, and then ended up in New York. But one of my professors who I still keep in touch with, Sonora Jha, she's brilliant. She was a journalist, now she's an author. Check out her writing if you'd like. She and I have kept in touch. We just had coffee, I think, in the last year in New York. She was there for a book talk. And she was like, I remember you coming in as this baby freshman and being like, I want to be a tennis journalist. And she was like, you're crazy. Like, have real goals. And
get a real job.
Yeah, exactly. Have a real dream. But she said that just in a way of like, it's so cool to watch how you I just have never sort of taken no, or like, I didn't know how I was going to navigate it. And there's been many times where you don't know how you're going to navigate the next thing. But I think that's a life thing too, right? Like, you don't know how you're going to face whatever situation comes next. And so, I mean, my entry point was my internship at Tennis Magazine in 2007 when I was still in college. But like, that actually didn't end very well for me. That's a whole nother podcast. But that was a challenge then, figuring out sort of like what the next thing was going to be in that sense.
Yeah. So definitely it seems like you took the traditional route into intern. You know, you said a little bit about just writing to the New York Times, like constantly just being like,
and
you didn't
calling them on a phone. Seriously.
Those don't exist now.
Yeah.
You can't dial the New York Times. But
probably not, actually.
Not really. But you know, I think a lot of people trying to get into tennis and stuff. Is there if I'm a young person, I want to get into tennis journalism, what would you tell me?
Well, I feel like
do?
the game has changed so much, right? Like, I look at what you're doing, and I say this honestly, of like, you have not only started did it start as a podcast, OG?
Yes, OG is a podcast,
But now you're this multimedia, like, we're on video here. I know you write, you do the 5 things to watch, the players that you know, the unsung heroes, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think that's the only way, but I think that building some sort of social groundwork is big. And I think that also, it includes not just being opinionated, not just having a hot take, not just being like, well, I think X on Y. It's about being, as I think you've done, and this is where I go back to my beginnings of like doing your research and what is a story. Last night we had Terrence Ottman on our court here, which was such a cool moment for this French kid who's 23, has been toiling at the Challenger, sort of middling in those spaces, and has this breakthrough win. And then I get to try a little bit to help people get to know him on court. But he throws on a Cincinnati Reds jersey. Here's this French guy who just had the biggest win of his career over Flavio Caboli. So doing the research, having some of that social fabric, and I think also willing to reach out to people, whether it be a tournament or a brand or a news outlet, and asking the question and saying, can I do this or can I contribute in this way? I think those are all different entry points or on-ramps that you have to be able to explore, and willing to get no's and willing to get people not responding to your email.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends in New York when I first moved there were all Broadway people, and they're going into these Broadway audition rooms and they're getting no's. You have to be willing to take no's and to take rejection, and that is, I think, a big key if you want to get into this space.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
No, totally. Like, it's 90% no. it's 90% no for that 10% of yes, and then you're golden. Actually, interestingly, speaking of Broadway, speaking of being on stage, so we've talked about your journalism background, and you still use it a lot.
Yeah.
But I think where people see you the most now is visually. We see you on YouTube, we see you on, videos and all of that. We see you on court, on stage.
Yeah.
Did you always know that's where it was going?
No.
When was the first time someone said, yeah, you got to go present, you got to go do that?
Yeah.
Do you remember when the first time that was?
So, again, I feel like I'm dating myself here, but 2010 to 2013, 14, I was wholly in on, social media content creating behind the scenes, writing a lot, working for as many tournaments as I could, reaching out, doing a week in Tallahassee and Memphis, and going to Stanford, and doing the tournament in Stuttgart. I mean, anyone who would take me on, and trying to figure it out financially too, of maybe not making a buck, maybe splitting even, maybe taking $1,000 for the week and paying for my own hotel, all of these different things.
Yeah.
But it was my 2 years at USA Today where I was the tennis reporter, which was an amazing opportunity that I sort of stumbled into. I was their tennis reporter and I was writing, and I just started to get this sense of I understand the on-camera presence that you need. And I was seeing other people do it. I was like, I want to do that too. And at USA Today at the time, I said, can I do more than I was just doing tennis? So I was doing 10 weeks a year just at the slams. And at the time, USA Today and my editor, Roxana Scott, who I still have a great relationship, she just said, Nick, this is the only thing that we have for you right now. It's just the tennis and it's just writing. And I said, okay, Rox, I'm going to go. And it was a big risk, I think.
Yeah.
But at that point, also, I had the relationships enough of doing the social media stuff, where I got a YouTube show at the Australian Open. It was called the Twitter Blue Room. If you know it from way back when, we had Andrea Petkovic with a giant oversized tennis racket playing semisonic. I mean, just good, fun stuff. So taking that chance of saying I can be on camera and asking to do it, again, asking for the no's, doing it at Matt Van Tynen at Indian Wells, letting me do player interviews during media day. I had no idea, Anastasia, what I was doing at all, but faking it till you make it, asking for those opportunities, where I feel like people now have opportunity to do that on your own social media.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't something that I had trained in. My journalism program was written, so that was then the opportunity of, again, hearing those no's, but asking the questions.
Were you ever... I have terrible stage fright. I might not seem it, but I have terrible stage fright. But did you ever have that moment where you're on court and now you have to sort of talk to this player?
Absolutely. The player stuff is actually, I would say, the easier.
Really? Okay.
I find it a little tougher by myself, or when you're trying to rev up a crowd, or get a message across, or get people hyped up, or whatever it is. I find that more challenging. And I will say too, you're being very kind to me. I'm not on the big stages. Sometimes I am there, but I actually find myself, I'm more of an introvert as well, which I know probably doesn't come across in my work. But I finish these days and I am wiped. I don't want to talk to anyone. Don't bother me. I want my glass of wine. I might take a special gummy and sink into the hotel bed, because at the French Open, we were doing that show, and it was so fun, but it was probably one of the most taxing, challenging. I was being extroverted, and I was being man on the street, and we were doing vox pops, and I was doing player interviews, and it was a lot of hey guys, welcome to the French Open. It was a lot of that sort of TikTok vibe, and it was depleting.
Yeah.
But I also find that the players enjoy someone who will really take charge of a situation, and fans want that. They want to feel connected. We all want to feel connected, right?
Yeah.
That's why I think your audience has responded the way that they have. And people, whether they're on a stadium, you're on a screen, you're telling them about tennis, you're doing an interview, they want to feel connected to what's out there. Lots of stage fright, absolutely. Still get nervous. That means I care. But also, what's the worst that's going to happen, right? I always remind myself that of hey, I've got my microphone, I'm out here, I'm going to tell you about tennis, and I want you all to have a great day. And you don't know Katie McNally's story? Today in Cincinnati, we've got Katie McNally on my court. I want those fans to understand what it means for her to be out here, because then people feel more connected to what they're experiencing.
Right. So take us a little bit behind the scenes, because I think you've talked a lot about telling the player stories. That, to me, means you do a lot of research behind the scenes. So what is planning a day on court like for you?
Yeah, and it's actually a good challenge for me now, because I used to only be tennis, and now I'm part-time with the Olympics. So even like, to go back to the Terence Ottman example, is I didn't know a lot about him. So going through their social media handles, definitely to get a little bit of the personal flavor, understanding their ATP, bios in terms of results. Have they mostly been on the Challenger Tour? Trying to find that mix of like their tennis isms and what makes up their tennis story, and then also their personal human story.
Yeah.
And being aware, especially when we're on court, is like giving them the comfort level to, like the other day, I had Fabian Marozsan on my court, and he had just beaten Felix Auger-Aliassime in Toronto on center court, and then he comes to Stadium 3, and he beats Colton Smith, American. The crowd was against him, and I wanted to ask him about that.
Yeah.
Because he played smooth, smart tennis, and he won that match. But I also don't want him to feel uncomfortable of like, the crowd was rooting against you. Because they weren't, they were being fair.
Yeah.
But then I felt like I was careful enough with it where then Fabian was able to say like, I like to be out here and feel like the crowd is engaged, and I want to win. So no matter if I'm in Toronto or Cincinnati playing a Canadian or American.
Yeah.
So I think the research is important, but also like feeling out and understanding the cadence of the person. And, whether it's they're a low talker or they're shy, or just something simple of like making them feel comfortable and feeling like they can share their story. Again, last night with Terence Ottman, I'm like, hey, it's Ottman, right? It's not Ottmane. Because it's like, it's a French name, so I want to be sure. And even just that, I think he was like, it's Ottman. Like, thanks for asking. The research is huge, and sometimes you out there and you don't have the research that you would have wanted in terms of timing. And so then it's like, okay, what was the situation? And also, like, what do fans want to connect with? The mentality, the pressure points, the human moment of being out there on a tennis court and trying to achieve something.
Yeah.
Whether it's for someone like Taylor Townsend, who won on our court yesterday, who's been around for a minute, but is still trying to punch up in her singles as doubles world number 1. Or like an Ottman who's having the biggest win of his career, trying to understand what that moment means to them in their tennis, too.
Yeah.
When you walk into a Burlington, you're walking into amazing prices and great gifts. That's main character energy. Because at Burlington, the holiday savings aren't the only things turning heads. Discover quality finds and perfect presents for everyone on your list, even those who are hard to shop for. Toys and jewelry to new beauty brands and styles, these gifts go seamlessly from our stores to under your tree. Seriously, with these savings, why shop anywhere else?
Burlington deals, brands, wow.
So you've been around. You've been doing this for forever.
15 years. Let's go.
Is there anything, I guess I can put this in two separate, an A and a B.
Yeah.
A part, is there anything innovative-wise that you would like to see in tennis presenting, in the way we present tennis? Is there anything new you would like to see?
Yeah.
And part B, is there anything new you want to do personally in the world of tennis?
Shit. Okay, that second part. Let's go. We're getting real. Okay, so I love like products like UTS. I think we do a great job sort of here on tour as well. But then also I love what we're seeing of like mid-match coach interviews, microphones in the coaching box, the ability to, like at United Cup earlier this year, Tennis Australia had pre-match interviews with coaches, which I think you're getting more meaty. Oftentimes the pre-match player interviews are just so tough because they don't say much. So I think always thinking of like, what's the next chance for us? Like, come on, turn on a WNBA game, NBA. I'm actually not a mainstream like NFL. I think it's happening where you've got microphones in player jerseys and they're cutting stings of 30 seconds of in-game content. Like, we need that in tennis. And how we can play a part sort of on the commentary side, I think is really important.
Yeah.
Of being able to understand, yes, we need to be protective of the player and their mental space out on court, but I think that there is that opportunity of like, let's take people inside the drama.
Yeah.
And really.
Some of those NFL cuts are so fun. Like some of
NFL
them
does it too,
yeah,
right?
They're just like, it's so insightful, and then also just some of them are just hilarious. Like just listening, you're just like, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
There's
That's
a
good,
whole
though.
match, but yeah.
Great question on the personal side.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can honestly say, like, right now, my mantra or my focus more in my life has been about appreciation and sort of, just being present of even being here and just having the job that I do. I don't know, I guess it sounds like cheesy and corny, but just being able to stay in the now has been really important for me. And I haven't done a 1, 3, 5 year plan. That's probably on me, running my own company. But I'll do all 4 slams this year. I haven't done that since 2019, so that feels amazing. And I've done really unique, fun products with great production teams, creative people. And we're like, I know there's a lot of jadedness in the tennis space, but I will say we are out here and we are trying to do cool shit.
Yeah.
We are. And from working with Whisper and Wimbledon, the All England Club, the FFT, Tennis Australia, like there are people in these spaces. Just in that I can name, 10 different producers who are like, hey, let's do cool stuff that people want to engage with.
Yeah.
And the players are mostly game for it. So, and it's a crowded space out there, right? Like, the internet is a wild place. So I think that there is the effort. Yes, we can do better. You know that too. I think you see it too, of like, how can we try to continue to be different in tennis, right?
And like grow the sport and just sort of, get more voices in and, show the sport in a different way. Because I think a lot of times what people, or at least what I hear from people who, engage with our channel and stuff like that, is that they just don't even know.
Yeah.
They feel sort of like tennis is this sort of it's tennis.
Yeah.
And they're not allowed in. And I'm like, no, it's actually the most chill sport ever. And then once they start getting a handle on it, they're like, oh,
yeah,
I could just come over and just
right.
like chill on the outside court and just like eat my snacks and like whatever.
And do this?
You not do this?
But don't you think too, and I'm curious your perspective on this, is that there's a lot of cool stuff out there. Like between the tours and the TV products and the tournaments and the players themselves and their teams, I know that we have to continue to evolve, and that's what you're saying.
Yes.
But also, like, if you want to be a fan, there's a lot of cool stuff happening to consume as well. There's a lot of stuff
that you can already, watch, consume. It's already out there if you want. If you want it, and you can find it for sure.
Yeah.
It's growing.
Right.
I'm like, every time I open up YouTube, there's another player vlog. Like there's stuff out there for you to consume for sure.
Yeah,
and it's exciting.
And that's
really
the challenge,
exciting.
like you say, of like what is coming next. How does someone like you, we sit in different spaces in terms of how, you've built something from the ground up. I started that way, and then I started working for the man. And then it's kind of like, okay, how do I continue to be sort of my creative self and be fun and energetic, and also try to ask some challenging questions, all of those different spaces. I don't know. There's those many different layers to it too.
Yeah. Well, we're at the Cincinnati Open, if you haven't realized. And Nick definitely has to run in a second to go present on his court. But last thing I will ask you, because it's how I end most of this, but a lot of people who watch Meet the Professionals are people who want to get into tennis.
Okay.
They want to be a coach, they want to be a trainer, a physio, they want to be a presenter. What advice would you have for someone trying to get into tennis now? Because obviously you got in 15 years ago, and most people I talk to, they got in years ago. Yeah. But the modern landscape is much different now. What would you say to someone who wants to get in now?
I think the social media piece is there, have some sort of presence, and be aware of what your presence is, right? Is it a professional space, or are you being a little cheeky? Are you being fun? obviously you took a very specific route, which I think is amazing. Do the work. Like, be good at what you do. Work at it. I mean, I have a journalism degree. I pride myself in my writing. It's not just show up and create. It's doing the research, doing the work, always challenging yourself, like you say. And then if you want to get into these spaces, whatever they may be to you, is find that way. Send that email, make the phone call. It goes back to my New York Times, like literally Lynn Zinser from the New York Times answering that phone being like, who, like what? And me being like, I want to write for Straight Sets. But there are people behind the emails and the brands and the products, and asking those questions and being willing to take no for an answer. It's not going to happen overnight, and there's going to be a lot of no's. And even now, there are opportunities or gigs or places and spaces that I've wanted to be that I got no's for. I had a job. I've had many jobs that I've done for 1 or 2 years, and then they went a different direction. And that's not personal on me. It's a product. This is business. Don't take it personal. Continue to chase what you want. Do the work. And also remember, if this is your passion, to enjoy it, because this is such a cool, what an amazing, yes, there's plenty of prickly points to pick on in our sport, in our world, please. But the opportunity to work in the space, do that work, and then also be someone that is willing to be a team player.
Yeah.
You know, to work with a team, to have relationships, to be someone that can be a shoulder to lean on, but also then to pick someone up and to be sort of the reliable, as Ted Robinson, the iconic commentator, makes our way past. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's so many ways to get in. So be willing to, I guess, do the work.
Yeah. Do the work and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thank you.
This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you and everything that you've charted. Let's go, baby.
Let's do it.
Thanks for hanging, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bustin' with the Boys is here to let you know that every college football Saturday, FanDuel is dropping profit boosts that can turn wins into bigger wins.
Sounds like we should rename Saturday Booster Day.
Nice.
21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Every love story is unique. And when it's time to begin your forever, your engagement ring should be just as extraordinary.
That's why couples select Tacori engagement rings, handcrafted in California with stunning design details and Tacori's signature crescent silhouette.
These aren't just rings, they're wearable art, blending timeless craftsmanship with modern style.
At Mervis Diamond Importers, couples in DC have trusted us for generations as the premier source for Tacori and the world's most beautiful natural diamonds. We offer more than rings. We offer guidance.
They walked me through every step of the way.
Expertise.
From selecting your Tacori design to choosing the perfect diamond.
And a deeply personal experience.
Because when they open the box and they say yes, it's a moment you'll remember forever.
Mervis Diamond Importers, the premier destination for Tacori and fine quality diamonds in DC. For more details, go to mervisdiamond.com or call 800-HER-LOVE. Again, that's mervisdiamond.com or 1-800-HER-LOVE.